start recording. Great. Well, welcome everyone to our podcast. You're beautiful with Dr. Leah, or you're handsome with Dr. Leah this time. And it's really exciting because we have never had a man yet on our podcast. I know it's sad to say, but so I'm really happy you could join us, Jake. So please tell a little bit about yourself and about your journey, and I'll be just asking questions as we go.
Yeah, so well, I started developing psoriasis around the age of like 19 or so. I was in college at the time, living that typical college lifestyle, eating a lot of fast food, cafeteria food, drinking too much alcohol, all that sort of thing. And for a while, it was pretty mild and under control. But eventually, when I graduated from school, it reached a new level. I kind of started facing the stress of entering the real world. I kept up with those bad habits that I had developed, and eventually my skin just got to the point where I just couldn't control it anymore. It was just kind of broke out all over. I'd gone through the lineup of dermatologist treatments, all the topical steroids, light treatment, all that stuff. I didn't quite get to the biologics, but I reached a point where I was like, I need to, if I want to overcome this, I need to kind of take it in my own hands. So I started researching online, and I found people who had success in using diet and lifestyle habits to improve their skin conditions. And so I basically just dove all in right away. It took a long time to really sift through stuff. I went through a lot of ups and downs for years. I did some pretty intense sort of things with like fasting and stuff like
I want
that.
to
So
know all of it soon. I'll be
yeah,
asking questions. Yeah.
yeah. So I went up and down for a long time, but and I saw results like right off the bat because I got really serious about it. But I was going through ups and downs, kind of yo-yo results, and eventually I really tied things together and kind of drifted away from these extreme approaches and started focusing more on just finding balance in my life. I think some of these extreme diets can be a great sort of starting tool for a lot of people, but at the end of the day, you need to find, if you're stressed out by your diet or by your habits, you're never going to be able to keep up with it, and the results or the symptoms are just going to come back. So I think the real key was just sort of finding that balance, with and everyone's balance is going to look different at the end of the day. So at this point, it's been about 4 years since I cleared my last really difficult skin breakout. And in the meantime, over the years, I've had minor symptoms, things like that. Life comes up, sort of thing. But yeah, over the last 3 years, I've been running my Instagram and website. I have a coaching program now as well, and yeah, just trying to help people out and through this natural process, kind of the way I did and the way I saw other people do it before.
Yeah, and that's amazing, because so many people um, maybe give up on more a natural healing because it is super hard. I've tried giving up alcohol for a few weeks, and then I'm like, I need to, I want to go back, or and it's and like you said, a lot of people go try different treatments. Well, we like steroids, they don't help. I also tried oral treatment. Now I'm on biologic, which finally seems to work, but they usually work until they don't, right? So it's
Right.
kind of that. So every day is like a blessing, like, oh, okay, it's clean. But you're right. So talk about diets, because I've spoken now with many people, right, who say, because psoriasis is autoimmune disease, as we know. So it's all affected by stress, of course, in your brain, and kind of your second brain, your gut, right, your microbiome. So it makes sense that what you eat will affect how you feel. And some people went like vegan, or some do keto, or some do this. And you're right, it's so much stress. I know I've done like vegan for a bit, I've done keto for a bit. It's just so stressful. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do it. Tell a little bit about your journey, and also fasting. Like I'm doing intermittent fasting, which I love. But can you like tell all of it, please?
Yeah, so I've been from one extreme to the other. I have done, in the past, I ate a vegan plant-based diet for about a year.
Wow.
And that actually, it did well for my skin in the short term, but eventually as time goes on, and I find this with a lot of people who do go down that plant-based path, eventually, you run into nutrient deficiency sort of issues. In the first like 6 months or so, I felt great. But
Mhm.
eventually I got to this point where I couldn't gain any weight. I was like losing weight. I was fatigued all the time. So that's when I started reintroducing, animal foods again. And then from there, I got into like the keto sort of thing. I think it's kind of like a natural transition.
Mhm.
Keto, kind of like carnivore-ish um,
Mhm.
type of diet. And I think both of them, like on both ends of the spectrum, you have plant-based and then you have keto carnivore. And I think they both proven to be really good kind of temporary solutions for a lot of people to kind of
Yeah.
like hit the reset button and get started. But like I said, what I've found, and like I said, I think they both can potentially be great short-term like resets for people. But then from there, I think it's a matter of building from there and building a healthy, balanced relationship with all three macronutrients. Because
Mhm.
if you're, I think the reason why these extremes work so well is because they really like simplify digestion. So if you're eating high fat, low carb keto, and then you're eating high carb, low fat, vegan or plant based, it really simplifies digestion because you really focus on digesting a certain macronutrient and the
Mhm.
one's kind of taken out of the picture. So I think it kind of mimics the benefits of fasting in one way or another and just really simplifies the digestive process. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, from there, like I said, I've been on both ends of the spectrum. I ate keto for a while, I ate plant based, and they both did well for my skin in the short term. But then I think a lot of people end up hitting a wall. You hit
Yeah.
a wall, a nutrient deficiency wall, and then it's a matter of like building from there. And I think that's where a lot of people end up dropping the ball, sort of, because they'll eat like a ketogenic diet or they'll fast and their skin will clear up. But then when it gets to the point of like building a lifelong, sustainable, balanced approach, they feel locked into these extremes. Like, okay, I
Mhm.
have to eat keto for the rest of my life to keep my skin clear, or I have to eat plant based for the rest of my life to keep my skin clear. But at the end of the day, I think sticking with those extremes too long could potentially cause a lot more harm than good for a lot
Mhm.
of people. So I think at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's just ultimately, and I think balance is kind of like a cliche sort of word. So I don't like to use it very often, but that's what you got to do. And everyone's balance is going to look different. Some people might do really well with a high fat, low carb framework. Some people might do better bringing the carbs up, bringing the fat down. I think it's just a matter of, there's so much information out there to sift through and learn from. But at the end of the day, I think it's really about you going through the process of experimentation and sort of learning what works for you by, reading your health indicators and biomarkers and things like that.
Right. And I think you make such a great point, right? Because there's no magic pill or there is no magic diet or magic three things you should be eating. We
Right.
know that like nightshades are usually cause more flare-ups,
Mhm.
but again, not for everyone. But I think, yes, listening to your own body and finding whatever that balance is, right, is so important.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
right. So what is your balance? What is like, how do you go around uh, getting to know your own body?
Yeah. So I like if you go online and I don't know what the first thing would come up, but if you go on like Google and type in psoriasis trigger foods, I bet you a bunch of the foods that come up are foods that I eat every day. I eat a lot of red meat, eggs, butter, raw goat milk, things like that. I eat potatoes, which are in nightshade.
Yeah.
So I think that, there's, and some of those things might not work for some people,
Yeah.
definitely. But what I think is kind of a good plan of action for a lot of people is to start at an extreme. Like I said, I'm kind of against these extremes, but I think they're a great starting point. So
Hmm.
maybe, start with like a animal based, or you can go the plant based route, if you want, but start with like an animal base, really focus on these really quality animal proteins and fats. And just because, like I said, it kind of serves like a fast. It's like a fast mimicking technique, really simplifies digestion. Do that for a couple of weeks, be disciplined with it. And then from there, start slowly like introducing foods into
Hmm.
your diet and see if anything causes any issues for you. And I think there's really three questions you need to answer as you're going through this process of sort of building your diet from the ground up. Number one is what foods work best for you.
Hmm.
So out of like the primal framework sort of um, general framework, what foods work best? Meat, fish, eggs, fruits, vegetables, tubers, honey, quality dairy, things like that. Is there anything in that food list that flares you up, or do you do really well with some of those foods? The second question would be your macro ratios. So like I was saying before, some people are going to do better with the high fat, low carb. Some people are going to do better, higher carbs, lower fat.
Mhm.
So, and then the third one is fiber, that I think a lot of people don't pay much attention to is, how much fiber optimizes your digestion and your eliminations. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people, focus on how many carbs they're eating, but they're not paying too much attention to fiber. So I
Mhm.
think kind of the best plan of action for a lot of people is, like I said, start really simple with maybe like an extreme-ish sort of approach, and then slowly start building from there. Start plugging things in and read your health indicators. So your energy, your digestion, your eliminations, your mood, things like that. Those are the things that are kind of going to tell you if you're heading in the right direction. Because
Mhm.
especially in the beginning stages, your skin might be going through a lot of ups and downs, and it might not necessarily be a bad thing.
Mhm.
There's sort of die-off symptoms and things like that. So I think just by keeping things super simple and, kind of maybe like limiting the amount of foods you're eating, like only eat like 8 different foods
Mhm.
and be like, okay, I'm going to eat these 8 foods. I'm going to go for this macro ratio and see what happens. I think really what it's all about is experimenting with different foods and different frameworks and ultimately just gathering information. The more that you do that, the more frameworks you play around with, you'll eventually have all this information and be like, okay, I did much better in this sort of framework than I did in this one. So
Mhm.
obviously it's a really nuanced process. It's really difficult and it takes a long time, but I think that's really, the best way to go about it.
Mhm. I like that a lot because you give such a tactical advice, right? Not just, oh, get to know your body, but like, where do I start? You really say, and I like that a lot. Start with this 5 to 8 foods, right? And then eliminate some and maybe add some, right? So I
Right.
think that's a great like advice that people can really start doing to get to know their body.
Right.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Have you tried like intermittent fasting? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's kind of the same sort of thing. I think in the short term, like when people's gut health is really not in a great place, I think that's when like some bigger fasting windows can be really effective, just to
mhm,
give your gut some time to relax and sort of repair itself. Um, and like if you ever want to go through a reset, maybe you go out with your friends one weekend, your gut's not feeling so good, you might want to intermittent fast for a week or so. But what I think is more important than following any specific window like a 16-8 or 12-12 or whatever. I think it's just about finding your ideal eating schedule and eating window. So I think intermittent fasting is a great idea, and there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. But as with anything else, some people might do great in that kind of 16-8 window and just fit
yeah,
all their meals into an 8-hour period. Some people might do well, eating within like a 4-hour period.
yeah,
But then other people who have, quicker metabolisms, who are more active during the day, have a physical job, maybe those people might be better off with, eating throughout the day, kind of like throughout a 12-hour period, eating from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So yeah, I think in terms of promoting autophagy and kind of the cellular regeneration process, fasting is like, it's like king. It's like the number one thing to do to kind of start that process going.
mhm,
Um, but at the end of it, I don't think it's necessarily people, some people do really well with it all the time, but it's not something that I think people have to do necessarily all the time. I think it's more about just like finding that window that works best for you. If you
yeah,
feel better eating from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., then you probably shouldn't push off your first meal until noon or 1. But if you feel better pushing off your meal to noon or 1, then you can do that as well.
yeah,
But I think, yeah, it's about, like, again, listening to your body and just ultimately optimizing those health indicators and seeing what's right for you.
right. You are so right, and I love this so much. And and I think there's also difference between man and woman, right?
Yeah. Oh
Because I
yeah.
think for women, the hormones during the day and during the cycle might also influence how we eat, and it's not just like we always believed, oh, it's calories in, calories out. It's not just that. It's not
Mhm.
as simple. I don't believe in that. I also I tried a lot of intermittent fasting, and I tried 12-12, and then I tried like 16-8. For me, what works the best is really 4-hour window,
Yeah.
and I'm older, but it works, and I love it, and I sleep better and I feel better. But it took me months, maybe a year of trying to come to this. So you're right. It's for everyone is different. And you can't say, oh, if you are a man in a certain age and you do this, this is what's best for you. That's not true, right? That's clearly not true. And sometimes some people fast for 2 days, right? So like for more like longevity also, like you said, autophagy. So and then talk a little bit about exercise, right? Because people say, oh, I'm already skinny, I don't need to exercise. So, and it's not just that, right? It's the whole mental health. So talk a little, because you do a lot of that. So talk a little bit how you think it affected your psoriasis, but also your mental health, I would say.
Yeah, obviously, the benefits of exercise are no secret. Everyone knows the inherent sort of benefits of it, but it's kind of like with the diet thing. I think a lot of people end up falling off the wagon because they don't develop something that they can stick with. So obviously, if you work out 3 days a week for 10 years, that's going to be a lot more effective than working out every day for like 6 months and then giving up. So it's kind of like the same thing. I think you need to, you don't necessarily need to kill yourself, to be healthy or clear your skin or anything like that. You just have to be consistent with what you're doing. I personally, I do a lot of strength training. I'll lift weights like 3-4 days a week or something like that, focusing on compound movements and sort of getting stronger and things like that. I also play a lot of basketball, get a little cardio in. That kind of, I haven't been playing as much recently once like COVID happened and stuff like that. A lot of stuff closed down where I'd typically, be playing in games and things like that. Didn't really happen as much, but yeah, it's like I said, I think strength training is really important. A lot of people will just like jump to cardio and just like be like, all right, I'm just gonna run all the time. But that's kind of like sort of a catabolic sort of effect that it has on your body. And when you're strength training, it has that anabolic effect, using that protein, building muscle. So I mean, even something as simple as doing 100 push-ups and 100 like weightless squats a day, or 3-4 days a week for somebody who isn't too familiar with lifting weights and things like that. Even something like that, I think, can make a huge difference. Like you said, in terms of course, physical health, but also just neurologically and just making you feel better and releasing those endorphins and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more. I used to do Pilates and run until it wouldn't do anything. Like when I was trying to lose weight, I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to run for 2 hours. It doesn't do anything, So now I'm just doing, like you said, I think the routine, I'm doing 7 days a week, 15 minutes weight training. Just go downstairs and I just and watch like Shark Tank or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I feel so much stronger, and your whole day is and it's just 15 minutes. And many people like, oh my God, I don't have an hour, right? But you're right. Just kind of that consistency is so important.
Exactly. Yeah. And obviously, you could, for people who are really serious about it, you could lift your 5-6 days a week for a couple hours a day and go crazy with it. But I mean, like something like you're doing, just, 15 minutes a day, run downstairs, do some stuff. I think that can, be a huge difference just in terms of stimulating those muscles and just, entertaining it that way.
Yeah. I agree. So tell a little bit more, and we'll come to what you do also as a coach, because I mean, you are very knowledgeable in terms of not just psoriasis, but also, and not just diet, but kind of the whole holistic approach, right? And more on a cellular level. So which I love, is great. And I think we can like talk for hours going into each
definitely
point.
Probably this could be 2 hours long if we want.
I know. And you seem to have it all figured out and all together, but I'm sure you have some bad days, right? Like, what are those? What do you do on those bad days?
Well, yeah, as with everyone, life stressors, they don't stop. Things are always going to come up that are going to stress you out. So I think it's really just about, building that sort of foundation. And, if you do fall off track with your diet or you start getting stressed out, I think it's really just about returning to the habits that, started optimizing your health in the first place. Along with obviously being really consistent with your diet is important, but throwing in these just neurological health habits and being consistent with them is really important. So yeah, I mean, when I'm having a bad day, I don't really have anything that I like jump to. It's really just a matter of like, getting back on track and getting
Mhm.
back into the flow of my day. And I think what a lot of people don't really play into consideration either is like having like a set schedule for your day, like sitting down, the day before, like setting out your intent for the next day. Like, this is what I'm going to get done. So, between these hours, I'm going to do this. Between these hours, I'm going to do this. And, save time for yourself for things that you enjoy doing. Give yourself a couple hours in the middle of the day or at the end of the night to spend time, with your family or watch TV or play video games, whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, just to have that set out in your head as you go into the day, so everything's not so chaotic. I think just something as simple as kind of planning out your day beforehand could be just huge in sort of limiting that stress and limiting the impact that stressors can have on your immune system.
I could not agree more. I really could not agree
Yeah.
more. I felt when I was, and it's like really intentionally doing it, I felt when I was working in the corporate world, my meetings would start at 7, finish at 6 or longer. But I've been like, it's like, I don't know, like an object, like you go to this meeting. I didn't even know what the meetings were about, really. Now everything I do is I basically say I do that all the time, the whole week. I say between 5:30 and 6 I exercise, 6 to 6:30. Really, it's to that precision.
Right.
And that routine is amazing. It's
Mhm.
it's just basically I don't have to think about, oh, what am I going to do now, or how I'm going to finish this. No. I say this hour I'm doing emails, and that's when I'm doing it.
Right.
You are so right. And it gives you that, when you are stressed, it gives you that calmness, right? So
Yeah.
to really know, okay, that's what I'm doing, and I'm not going to be stressing about it now. I have that
Yeah.
hour to stress about it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you do that, I mean, if you do that, if you plan out your days and then you have the discipline to actually stick with your schedule, I mean, that in itself is just kind of a recipe for success. And I
Yeah.
think if you can do something as simple as that and, just lay out your day and stick with it, I mean, that's just a huge jump forward for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to put like all your advices, in the
Yeah.
in the post. There will be so
Yeah.
many.
Sure.
So in terms of like what you do, you do the coaching, and I'll mention your website and your YouTube channel and Instagram. Just can you talk a little bit more about it?
The coaching program. Yeah. So, like I said, I've been running my Instagram and website for 3 or 4 years at this point, probably like right in the middle of there. And my coaching program is like a year and 2 months old at this point. So eventually I got to the point, with my Instagram, answering all, DMs every day and comments and things like that. I got to the point where I was like, this is not the most efficient way to help people who are really, really serious about it. So I wanted to create something that kind of would, for people who are serious about it, walk them sort of step by step through the process. And
Mhm.
so, like I said, I've been running for like a month and or a year and a couple months now. Right around 40 clients I've worked with.
Wow, that's
Yeah, and
great.
yeah, and I can honestly say everyone who's gone through the program and is like put in the work and reached out for help and done all the check-in forms and stuff like that, everyone sees results in time. Obviously, there's some do better than others. There's a discipline factor that comes into play here. But I always say everybody's answer is out there.
Yeah.
Everyone's answer is going to look different, but it's just a matter of finding it. And I think the real magic of the program is knowing how to make refinements.
Mhm.
When you're going through this process on your own and something goes wrong, it's hard to know what to do next.
Mhm.
But after going through it myself, working with people through my program and just through my page in general, I've in some ways, kind of narrowed it down to a science. So if like something's going wrong, this is what we do. If this is going wrong, this is what we do. So I
Mhm.
think it's just kind of a tool to get you results as fast and as sustainable as possible. Because obviously, it's not just about clearing your skin once. It's about building something that's going to allow you to keep it clear
Yes,
for
yes,
the long
yeah.
run.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm going to definitely mention this, and I'm going to check it out also. This is really great. And then do you do it, is it one to one, or is it like or is it like online course? How do you do it?
Yeah. So as of right now, it's a one-on-one program. I've had some thoughts about making it more like group oriented, adding in like a Facebook group and stuff like that, maybe sort of thing. But yeah, as of right now, it's one-on-one. And essentially it's 6 months long in total. And for the first like it'll take like a month or two to go through the online training course that I have. My online training course, just has a bunch of videos that kind of guide you through the process of building your diet, through the neurological habits, basically just, touching on all the information, and it kind of guides you step by step through the system rather than just like a bunch of like random videos. It like you go through the week 1 training, you know what to do for week 1. You go through week 2, you know what to do for week
Right.
2.
Yeah.
Then to go along with that info, there's support options. So I have like weekly check-in forms. We work with like a nutrition calculator, just so I can get a closer look at what people are doing and help them make those refinements that are so important. You get unlimited coaching calls, unlimited text, things like that. I have like a guide, kind of like a blueprint ebook guide that comes with the program as well. So yeah, basically just a bundle of information with the online course, and then a few support options to kind of keep you supported throughout.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I think, and is it for everyone? Just like man, woman, whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, anyone who's serious about reversing their skin symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is great because I think it's great that there are a lot of Facebook groups, where people can share, but it feels a lot that it's kind of just going out there, but I think I personally like that one-to-one coaching
Yeah.
because you can be more open and honest, right? And
Right.
and more vulnerable, I feel, than when you are in a group. But I mean, it works, of course, for everyone works differently. I think it can be both solutions. So I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I'm going to check it out, and I'm going to definitely like put it all in there. And just to and I know we've been talking, it's been so great. I said like, oh, it's 20 minutes. So we've been like going on and on.
Okay. No worries. I
Okay,
don't have
great.
anything to do today. No.
All right. Well, you have probably like all the people waiting and DMing you like what to
No,
do.
no, it's all right. I set some time aside for this. Like I said, I was excited about it. So
Yeah. Oh no, same here, same here. And then in terms of I think I have like few more questions. That's what a lot of people also ask. Do you know, or do you think, or suspect what triggered your psoriasis?
yeah, so I think as always, it's an accumulation of things for everyone. Like I think some people will sometimes go and get around to antibiotics and then it'll start from there. But
Yeah.
it's not, I don't think that necessarily means the antibiotics started it.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously, a combination of things. That was the antibiotics obviously proved to be part of it. But for me, I think it was just growing up the way I did and with my habits. I was always an athlete. I was always really skinny and things like that. So I thought I was healthy and I thought I could eat whatever I wanted. I remember in college sitting there thinking like, I wonder if my food choices actually really matter. And now it's just like looking back at that, I'm like,
Wow.
it's not even a question. Like how did I actually think that? Um, so yeah, yeah, I think.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people say that indeed it was some like staphylococcus, like strep throat, or like for me it
Right.
was long time ago. It was actually MMR vaccine, the live vaccine that triggered it, that kind of on that spot. And I mean, I love vaccines, but it just like, that some preservatives can do it.
Yeah.
But of course you were predisposed to it, right? So it's not like, oh, that's what did it. It's your immune system reacting certain ways. So, but that's very interesting. I always like to know because it's different for everybody, but still
Yeah.
there is some kind of antibiotics come up a lot, which is
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, we're all sort of genetically predisposed
Yeah,
to develop certain things, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're enslaved to our genes.
correct.
Like at the end of the day, it's obviously, our habits and things like that are ultimately going to determine whether we develop these diseases that we are predisposed to.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think for most people, obviously, like a vaccine or anything like that can kind of spark it up. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it's an accumulation of just overall health. You might have some gut health issues, you might have some hormonal imbalances,
Yeah.
and I think those are the kind of things that throw it off. And in order to reverse the symptoms and clear your skin up, it's just a matter of back to that cliche word of balance. You just need to balance those things back out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I fully agree because like now we see people are able to reverse diseases such as diabetes, right? Which is I don't even know how. I mean, like when you look scientifically, it should be impossible, but it is possible. So and it's not just diet, it's all of it, right? It's
Right.
everything you do. So you're absolutely right. So to kind of, as we are, nearing the end, what is, and I know we spoke it probably already there, but what is your superpower?
My superpower. I'm not sure at this point. I would say psoriasis has become my superpower. I always tell
Oh,
people how blessed I feel that I developed the skin issues that I did, because if I never did that, I'd be living the same way I was, shortly after college. I would have never changed the way I was eating. I
mhm.
never would have seen a reason to. So I think the fact that my skin issues woke me up to my habits and what I was doing to my body,
Yeah,
it changed my life in a lot of different ways. I always say too, the skin symptoms clearing up is a great part of this. Like once you start down this path, but once you've been eating a different way, in really developing your habits, as time goes on, 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, your health just keeps improving and your life just keeps improving,
yeah,
in really every way possible. So yeah,
yeah,
I'd say my superpower is psoriasis, because it woke me up. It kind of triggered this need to start researching and learning about this stuff. And now at this point, yeah, I'm just trying to use what I've learned to help others have the same success.
yeah. I love it. No one ever said that their superpower is psoriasis. I had to write it down and say, oh my God, this is
Yeah.
amazing. I love it. This is really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
You really, like, it's like, how do you make lemonade out of lemons? You really
Yeah.
run it, saying,
Yeah.
what, I'm going
100%.
to turn this around.
Yeah. 100%. And I think that's, I mean, when you look at a lot of, just people in general, a lot of successful people, they come from adversity. 'Cause
Yeah,
those are the things that make you stronger and better as a person. If you're someone who has, gone through life, never had many down times, it's really hard for you to kind of pull stuff together and find that competitive attitude and,
yeah,
dig yourself up. So I think, a lot of people who go through really difficult things like this, I mean, there's really two choices. You could either give up, or you could just, keep working until
yeah,
you figure it out. So it really, I think psoriasis and just chronic diseases in general, when people go
mhm,
down this natural path, it naturally just sort of breeds like really disciplined people.
yeah,
Because it's a difficult thing to deal with. So if
yeah,
you're someone who's like, all right, I really want to figure this out, you have to be disciplined. So,
yeah.
you kind of just are just naturally forced into, changing your ways and becoming better.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and I love that. I also always say that, like, we always want to protect our loved ones, but then they will never learn and grow. So I
Mhm.
think more adversity manageable you
Mhm.
face in life, the
Right.
stronger you will come out the other end. Yes. And I think, like, people like you, by doing your coaching, by sharing your story, I mean, definitely inspire a lot. So I love that. This is great. It's been really great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Like I said, I was excited about this. So
Yeah, same here, same here. And I'm sure I'll be in touch in the future to, bring you on back on to really kind of dissect a lot of things that you
yeah.
said, so we can go more in depth. But it's been really great. And again, thank you so much. And also, for everyone who is listening, will be listening also, thank you so much. And please follow Jake. I'll put it all in. Please also follow us. And we'll be back soon.